Guess what time it is, my lovelies? That's right. It's time to dive into another upcoming game. Welcome to the Viper's Pit, where you know anything can happen, and usually does. Today, we will be discussing the upcoming game, Outriders, which is set to be released in February of 2021. But before we get into it, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, give the video a like, and tell your friends about me, if indeed you do like what I do. We love a big audience here, and I always want to keep it growing. That being said, let's get into this. Developed by People Can Fly and published by Square Enix, Outriders will be a loot shooter game like Borderlands or Destiny. However, there will be a couple of added aspects to Outriders that give a certain RPG feel to it. It's hard to say how a hybrid style of game like this will work out, but if it's done correctly, it would certainly turn some heads and leave some positive impressions on people. But before we get into too much of that, let's start with the game's backstory. The story itself isn't all that unique as far as dystopian futures are concerned. In Outriders, we see a future where humans have depleted the natural resources of Earth and must escape to let humanity continue. Almost reminds a person of Halo or even Dead Space. After a long journey through space, humanity comes to a new planet, Enoch, which seems to be suitable to set up a new civilization on. This is where the gameplay picks up. As you choose your avatar, you explore the settlement and talk to the other settlers who have journeyed with you. Once you decide to expand your colony, your avatar is immediately attacked by a hostile storm known as the Anomaly. It is a strange and random weather system that seems to pop up in random places across the landscape. Some people are swallowed by the anomaly. However, your avatar is one of the few that survives, only to discover that you now have powers. This is where you are able to choose one of the 4 classes to be a part of: Pyromancer, Devastator, Trickster, or Technomancer. From this point, the game incorporates a number of the elements from role-playing games, from exploring different hub areas to completing side missions to talking to NPCs, and even some choices in dialogue in some of the cutscenes. Okay, so now that we've covered the backstory, we can actually dive into the gameplay, which is been described as amazing. Most of the game critics who did test runs on the game have described the combat as outstanding. With the ability to blast someone in the face with a shotgun right before you use your pyromancing powers to set them on fire and watch them die screaming. I mean, let's be honest. That by itself sounds amazing. They couldn't even do that in the movie Inception. Bartek Kamita, the director, has this to say about the vision of the game. Quote, "From the beginning, we were quite sure we wanted to make a shooter mixed with an RPG where the skills are the same level of importance as the gun." End quotes. While we're on this subject of innovating concepts concerning gameplay, we also had to take note that this game is coming at the beginning of a new generation of consoles, the Xbox Series X and the PS5, with massive upgrades that these systems are promising. It's the perfect opportunity for the guys over at People Can Fly to flex their digital muscles. It is the perfect combination of high-performing consoles and insanely creative developers that can turn one of these games into a hit of the year. Besides, in the 2 years that this game has been in development, the development team has grown from 30 people to over 200. How could it not live up to the expectations? Oh, we'll just leave that one there. Let's take a look at the world layout for a bit. The team at People Can Fly wanted to make something that wasn't the normal map that people would expect to see in games like this. Bartek explained, quote, "What's important to mention is that we don't have an open world. We don't have a completely linear game either. We have a linear game, but it's branching into different arenas, different levels, and parts of the world. It's merging classic levels from a story-driven game with the open world concept and freedom of exploration." End quotes. This is such, in my opinion, a great way to maximize gameplay. And yeah, you maybe got it in some ways, but the places you will be led will still have open world elements in it. This includes multiple side quests. Developers of Outriders have definitely gone over the top when giving players plenty of options with abilities and guns. Yamada compared the game of Gears of War, but with way more options, he said. He says, if you want to play a Gears of War style, a move cover based shooter, you can. If cover is not important for you, you can build your character this way. That was the core of the design, to give people the possibility to play our game in different ways. So, in the gameplay, you can see that this is lived out because the options for abilities and guns is seemingly endless. The game will definitely be built around the idea of flexibility. With so much talk of blasting things with endless arrays of weapons, while using powers to decimate anything that moves, there is another important aspect of the game. Outriders was built to be mostly co-op. Well, I can't really say mostly co-op, but I will tell you the difficulty is the world tier, which means that it adjusts depending on how quickly you progress through the game. If you're progressing faster and seem to be doing better, the difficulty will automatically adjust and the enemies will get more difficult. This is where it becomes essential to join a team, if you're going to join one. However, the last word we got is that you can adjust the world setting yourself too, so that you are not solely relying on co-op. So, while testing the demo, many critics tried to do both, go solo and play co-op. They found that when playing alone, the world tier went up much higher, making it more difficult to accomplish tasks. Defeat the enemies and take in the complexities of the game. However, when playing co-op, it was said to be much more enjoyable. When playing with a team, the world tier goes up much slower. It makes sense because it does take a little longer to do things as a team. Also, remember, all of these abilities that we talked about earlier, well, they're going to complement each other in amazing ways. Tricksters can trap enemies in a time warp, while the pyromancers throw fire at them. How much more could you ask for? The concept that has been added to Outriders is how they deal with health regeneration. There is obviously a lot of action, and once again, This game is thinking outside the box as far as how the combat is played. Part of that gameplay revolves around the fact that the health regeneration is based off of the combat. It's let's say you're playing as a devastator. You've taken quite a bit of damage. Typically, one may think to hide for a minute while the health slowly climbs back up. That's not the case here. In this game, only a small portion of your health will regenerate like that. However, when you get into a fight, the health bar increases and your character grows stronger. So you gain health the more damage you inflict to your enemies. With the massive amounts of detail that's been put into this game, we have to wonder how long the actual game will be. At the very least, the game will take between 25 to 30 hours if a person just focuses on the main campaign. Nah, no, you're not overly impressed, right? But this game is anything but simple. Outriders is an incredibly complex game, and it offers way more than just a straight line quest. So with a number of side quests, post campaigns, and additional content, a person would go on for 2 or 3 times that length of time. It all depends on the player. And that's where the beauty lies. A campaign-minded person will complete the main quest and have a great experience. A detail-minded person will spend more time exploring and talking to people, finding the best items, and increasing their abilities. That person will stay busy for way longer. Remember though, this is the Viper's Pit. Things aren't always unicorns and rainbows and magical rays of sunshine if they ever were. If we're going to be fair, we need to look at what the game lacks as well as what it offers in the positive aspect. There are still many who worry that all of these seemingly amazing things will try to mask a game that will be underwhelming at best. As we discussed earlier in the video, the backstory of this game is a tad overplayed. Humans are bad people who have trashed the earth and they have to leave. It's like the movie Wall-E, but with guns and blood and magic. If we're being real with ourselves, it's a legitimate concern. At the end of the day, a piece of polished glass is just polished glass, but a diamond is a diamond.
Greetings, Outriders. Welcome Fundamentals.
Critics are also very aware of the type of gameplay that this would make up. As we have discussed, it's a shooter RPG hybrid. It's been tried before and rarely has it worked. It is argued, however, that the game is more than just a mashup of 2 different games. It's a combination of very specific other games such as Gears of War, Destiny, and Doom 2016, to name a few. If this were indeed true, then Outriders would lose that sense of uniqueness that everyone looks for in a new game like this. Overall, guys, the choice is up to you, whether or not you'll grab it. At this point, all signs point towards this being a fantastic game. With a combination of RPG and shooter, there's a good chance that this game will attract many more players who all have a wide range of interests. It will be available on PC, current generation consoles, and next gens as well, excluding one, Nintendo. Sorry, guys, but I don't make those calls. That being said, thank you guys for coming back to the pit. I have more videos for you all very soon, so be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, smash the notification bell if you like what I do, and we will see you in the next video. But before I go, always remember, you have a friend here at the Viper's Pit. And that's all for me, ladies and gentlemen. Holy Viper.